All right, in this video, we're going to do two separate prints together. We're going to do the Intro 13 and the Intro 14 print. It's exactly the same feature, and we're going to be using patterns to position the number of them around the part that we need. So the only difference between the 13 and the 14 is the type of pattern and how many patterns we have to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is start a new program. So I'm going to Program Manager, New Conversational, create some stock geometry, go to Part Setup, More, Stock Geometry, and this time we're going to do a cylinder. So we'll select Cylinder. Yes, we want to manually size it. This is going to be a negative Z position. The top center of the part will be my 0, and the cylinder will run down away from that face in the negative Z. So we're going to do a negative Z. The length is 0.5, and the radius is going to be 9 inches. It's 18-inch diameter, 9-inch radius. The center of that face is 0, so I don't need to use any reference positions, and I already have a 3/4 inch end mill set up in here that I can use, so I don't need to do that. So now we're going to create our programming. So we're going to go to the input screen, part programming, and I'm going to do this as a mill frame, just like we did in another print. We have a slot block that we could use, but we haven't talked about it yet at this stage in the videos, so we're going to go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to use a frame with corner radiuses. So I'm going to select Milling, Frame. Now I'm going to do the 3 o'clock position one, and then we're going to pattern that to get the other locations that we need. So we only have to program it once, and then we're able to use patterns to recreate. So this is 1 inch wide, a total of 6 inches long, because we have 5 inches from center to center, plus a 1/2 inch radius on either end. So I need to find one of the corners of this frame. It doesn't matter which one, whichever one I can most easily determine from my print. And it looks like from the center of the part, or from part 0, we're going to go out 2 inches to the center of the radius, but we're going to need to go to the very end or the beginning of that slot, so I'm going to have to subtract the radius, which is 0.5. So 2 inches minus 0.5, we're looking at a 1.5 location for the corner of the frame in X. The center of the frame is on 0. It's 1 inch wide, so the bottom left corner then would be negative 0.5, or half the width of the frame, minus 0.5. The overall length of this frame will be the 5 inches plus the radius on either end, so we're going to make it 6 inches, and it's a 1 inch wide frame. We'll go to 0.1. We're going to go down minus 0.550 just to make sure we break through. The corner radiuses will be 0.5. I can start at the 6 o'clock position, that's fine. I'm going to use tool number, select from the list, tool number 6, and I'm going to do a pocket boundary. So if I draw that, now I have a slot in the right position at 3 o'clock in my part. So to continue with this, or do all of the 8 slots that are necessary on this print, I'm going to pattern the one that I have. So let's go back to our program side. Let's hit the review screen. And the way patterns work is we're going to want to insert a pattern before whatever block in the program or number of blocks that we want to pattern. And then we're going to put a pattern end, or tell it where to stop, after the last block in the program that we want to pattern. In this case, it's only 1 block. But it could be 6 or 7 blocks in the program, and I only need to pattern 3 of those. Whatever. Right before the first block, we put our pattern, and after the last block that gets patterned, we put our pattern end. It's kind of like parentheses in a math equation. So I'm going to highlight block 1. I'm going to insert a block before. I'm going to select patterns. And we have a lot of different patterns here, loops, locations, scales. We'll use several of these in upcoming prints in class. But you'll see when I insert this in, it shows me a diagram of what that particular pattern looks like. In this case, I'm going to do a loop rotate. You can see that it's going to take the original pattern here in green, and it's literally going to rotate it around the 0 point to get the other ones in this pattern that I need, or in this group. So we're going to tell it how many times we're going to do it. We want to do 8 because we're going to include the original. So I'm going to do 8 times. I'm going to rotate around the center point. If this was another location on the print where I needed to rotate it around, I would put that X and Y location, but in this case it's 0, 0. The start angle, the first one will be at 0 degrees, 3 o'clock. That's why we have to include the number of them, including the original, because we could start or put that anywhere that we wanted around this circle. But we're going to put the first one at 0 degrees, and we're going to do them every 45 degrees. Let's go back to our review screen. Go to the end of block, or the end of program, or the block before we would want to put our end pattern in, or where we want to stop patterning. Again, in this case, it's at the end of the program. I'm going to insert a pattern end. So now you can see that it will start patterning here. It will pattern everything after that block 1 in the program until it sees a pattern end. So let's go ahead and draw that. I'll speed it up a little bit. You can see that we do have all 8 of the patterns in their correct location. And I said I was going to combine prints 13 and 14. 14 is exactly like 13, except we don't go all the way around with all 8 of them. The purpose for this print is to show that we don't have a skip list in patterns like we do in the holes blocks that we've done in the past. So if I go to my review screen here and I look at my patterns, I'm going to break this up into 2 separate patterns. You could probably do it in different arrangements, or you could do 2 patterns with different numbers than what I'm going to put in, but I think the easiest one is to do the first one with the 4 patterns on the right side of the part, and then a separate one doing just the 2 on the other side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my loop, my pattern loop, and I'm going to change this from 8 to 4. So I only want to do 4 in this particular pattern. Again, I'm just doing the 4 on the right side of the part. It's still going to be around the 0, 0 point, but my start angle in this case is not going to be 0, because if I did that, I would have one at 0, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and then 45 degrees beyond that. I don't want that. I want to actually rotate that down, so the first one is going to be that negative 45 degrees in this particular grouping. So I'm going to put negative 45 degrees for my starting angle. That'll do the one that's down there at about 4 or 5 o'clock there. Then it will continue to do 4 of them in the 45 degrees. And we should have what looks like the print for our first 4. Now the way we can do the second one is I'm going to click on the first block that I want to copy, press and hold the Shift key, and click on the last one I want to copy, and that's going to give me all 3 of these. You could also do this by using the function and the Alt key on the control panel to do the same thing. You could click on the first one, hold down the Alt, click on the third one, and it would grab them all. So I'm going to copy these blocks, go to highlight the end of the program, and I'm going to paste. Again, we always paste above the blue line or the highlighted block. So now we have an exact copy of what we just did. The mill frame didn't change. It's going to be the same. So all we need to do is change our rotary loop pattern loop again. This time, we're going to do the 2 that are left over on the left side of the part. So I'm only going to do 2. I'm still going around the center. My start angle, however, in this case is going to be 180. Still going 45 degrees between them. And obviously a positive 45 is always in the clockwise direction. So that's going to give us the second one there that we need. So if I draw this now, I'll have all of the frames that I need. So that's another use of the mill frame to do slots in the first introduction we had of using patterns.